Look at Wanda, ready to rock her big presentation. But first, lunch. Sweet Pepper's Deli. Delicious, celebratory, but is it quick? The Cobb salad. Tender oven-roasted chicken, topped with cheese. Prepared, plated, and served in 6 minutes? Is this for real? Well, of course. Well done, Wanda. Sweet Pepper's Deli. Yes, ma'am. Life is sweet.
Mississippi's trusted weather experts. This is Mississippi Live Weather at 6.
Well, thank you for joining us at 6 here. I'm Chief Meteorologist Matt Lopon. You're watching Mississippi Live Weather. Again, here in the Room to Room Weather Center, we're talking snowfall today. Maybe not something that most of us see, but something that some of us could. At least flakes for a few locations. But not everybody even maybe in that category. We're timing that out, looking ahead here in a couple of minutes. One of the main headlines, though, we don't want to skip past this. We have some dangerous cold ahead for the next couple of nights. And really, when we look at the wind chills over the next week, there's going to be a number of days where we're in the teens to start the day for wind chill temperatures. And they will definitely make it even colder to exposed skin, something that we are going to be talking about and timing out here in a couple of minutes. And obviously timing figures into the snow forecast. We're talking the pros and cons for our snow forecast. Not necessarily here's why I want it, here's why I don't, but here's what's working toward it and here's what's working against it, because confidence is where snow forecasting a lot of times goes awry. We almost always have a chance for snow this time of year. It might be 0.5%, 1/4%. But those chances, those percentages are increasing somewhat for a few locations, and we'll tell you the pros as to why that is happening here in a few minutes. But tonight, though we are getting colder, and though we have some precipitation, you see the moisture there, 7 p.m., still some showers. By 10 p.m., it's largely out of here. 1 o'clock in the morning it is, and that's when we're back below freezing. So moisture shifts out, and then right behind it comes in the cold air. They're out of phase, so no winter precipitation. We're down into the 20s. Not just 20s, low 20s for early tomorrow morning, but still dropping and definitely breezy out there in Cleveland. Again, appreciate the North Mississippi Storm Chasers partner with us on these live cameras around the area. 54 degrees in Cleveland right now, and Old Glory is definitely stretched out there because of the wind. We're looking at Greenville, again, with the widespread clouds. Mid-50s there. Those winds north and west at about 12 miles per hour. In the Delta, as we bring it back a little closer here to the eastern part of the state, we're looking at Amory at 46, so a little cooler in a few other spots. And again, that wind chill factor, 41, and those winds remain breezy into tonight. Mississippi Live Weather Radar on the close shot here on Mama Justice Doppler radar. This is all just pretty light stuff. Not a lot of meaningful rainfall coming from what is shown up on this closer perspective here as those showers continue to kind of slide toward the south and east and gradually out and away from us at this time. So you definitely see the movement of that front, and behind it the air is considerably drier. That's one of the reasons why that we have cold air. And yes, there is snow up there toward locations in the Midwest. That's a non-factor for us. And you can join what to a large extent is a snow pro and con conversation here by chiming in with what you're looking for there on Facebook, on YouTube. A lot of folks, you know, snow's one of those things I always talk about. We don't know how to feel about it. You know, are we excited? Are we scared because we could be at home for a while? Are we, you know, prepared? But this is one thing I want to talk about for just a moment here, and I'll bring it back to the latest scans. I've later on the dew point. It's a measure of moisture based on the same scales of temperature. What keeps this from being an issue tonight is because the air is not just colder behind this system, but this is some really, really dry air, to the point that sometimes you need to have that saline solution to help out the nose to keep everything lubricated. But that dry air there is accompanying, you know, these northwest winds. As a result, that's the reason why we can't get that precipitation on the surface. That's the reason why we cannot get any sort of snowfall out of what's coming in tonight. And our next storm system will, to a certain extent, fight the same battle, trying to produce something, but challenged by somewhat drier air. So this evening, though, north winds, cold, but mainly dry out there. Well, okay, completely dry. And honestly, mainly clear, with only a few clouds out there for locations out toward Tennessee and out into Alabama. Again, we'll talk more about that conversation related to snowfall here in a few minutes. But here in the Room to Room Weather Center, we're continuing to look at what will be primarily just clear skies overnight, and that makes for a really, really cold night. Down to somewhere in the neighborhood of 22, 23 degrees, maybe a few spots could touch the teens. So that's the reason why you want to make sure, again, you have those faucet covers on there, protect those. You'll need those the next few nights. Our friends over at Absolute Restoration giving away these faucet covers to you. And so you can go by their location, pick one up. Of course, they have more information on that if you don't know anything about them on their Facebook page. Just look up Absolute Restoration. Been one of our partners with us here at Mississippi Live from the very beginning. But again, cold, cold, cold to begin your Thursday morning. We're 38. That's it by noontime. And you look at those north winds, that means wind chills will still be in the 30s in the afternoon tomorrow. And likely, again, staying pretty chilly as we head into your Friday and even the weekend. But is it cold enough at the right time for us to see snowfall? That obviously is the question. I think the answer is probably no, but it's still probably. And we'll track just how this could play out for you as Mississippi Live Weather continues here from the Room to Room Weather Center right after this.
Out with the old and in with the new. It's time to save big at Room to Room's New Year's sale. Store-wide markdowns 50 to 70% off. No tax. 48-month special financing. It's a new year at Room to Room Furniture in Tupelo. There's no place like home.
As a bankruptcy firm, Mitchell, Cunningham & Bowling realizes many people are worried about their finances. We're here to guide you through the next steps to restart your life with easy video appointments. New clients don't have to leave home to get information about becoming debt-free. Also, convenient in-office appointments are available at the low cost of $340 upfront for a Chapter 13. You can be on your way to being debt-free. Contact Mitchell, Cunningham & Bowling today or visit our website at mcdebtfree.com. We are here to help you.
You wonder how they're going to experience the real world in real safety, where all kids are welcome and everyone has a path forward to new skills, advancement, leadership, something they will carry with them the rest of their lives.
This portion of Mississippi Live Weather is presented by Little's Jewelers.
Right now, from the Room to Room Weather Center, here's Mississippi's Chief Meteorologist, Matt Lovhawn.
Well, the showers remain light here on Mama Justice Doppler radar. Thank you so much for watching us here on Mississippi Live Weather. This is kind of the last of the moisture following behind our front moving through. So Carrollton, we're looking at this for you about 6:14 there. Gordo about 6:17, 6:35 Aliceville there. Coker at 6:40, Scuba at 6:40, and Northport by about 6:50. This is light rainfall, not a lot of meaningful moisture coming from this really at all. We can honestly check the rainfall rate on this. As you can see, all mainly in the light to maybe moderate. Moderate's really kind of on the higher end of that green. So again, this is a little bit more than sprinkles out there for some spots this evening. Outside in Macon, as we go into the sprinkles and look out of our camera there along Highway 45, obviously dark. The camera lens as we wait for the latest update there to come in. Not a lot of raindrops on it, but you can see somewhat of a reflection from the lights of the cars there going along 45, 47 degrees, and that's the thing. This is all liquid. That number above me in the mid-40s, so obviously we are not cold enough to support wintry precipitation there. And I think that's going to be one of the questions in Macon, which is one of the more likely locations in our area to have a chance for some snowfall even this weekend. I know, farther south, greater likelihood than north. And if you feel robbed, I'm sorry, I don't make the rules on these here. Weather watchers appreciate our Diane from Pontotoc there sending in this beautiful sunrise, a great shot there. A little bit of a frost maybe there on some of the grass, or maybe it's just that time of year where the grass, starts changing colors. You can use the Mississippi Live Weather app. It's free and available for all of those different devices that you could possibly think to try to use there. It does, if you haven't picked that up yet, if you're one of the folks watching us here on Facebook or YouTube or on X, you can pick up our free app. We stream live on there. It's about as simple as you get. It's simpler than using a TV remote, believe it or not. You just pop the app open and right at the very top. I'll show you. Watch this. I'm not in the app. I'm in who knows what on my home screen. But I'm going to hit that. And right there at the very top, there's me. Talk about what we're talking about in front of this. That's how quick and easy it is to pull up Mississippi Live Weather. And so, free and available for all those various devices. You'll never have to wonder, is Matt live? Are they live? because if we're live, we're right there on the top. Hey, 22 for that pickup temperature school bus forecast on your Thursday, 41 by drop-off. Obviously, layers for the kids, and one of those layers, if they're out there for any extended period of time, needs to be gloves because the wind chill temperature is the big story. We'll talk snowfall in a minute. That's the weekend when those chances come up. But in the near term, it's too dry, but it's plenty cold. North winds continue again to bring in that colder air as we go into overnight hours. Most of our cloud cover, which would provide any kind of sort of insulation, that slides south of us over the course of the next few hours here. And then we are exposed to those clear skies, and those temperatures continue to drop in a big way. Again, no moisture coming from this when we reach some of our coldest temperatures. And so it's just really cold at 23 there in Grenada, 22 in Water Valley and Bruce, coming in 22 degrees in Tupelo. We're 25 in Greenwood and 26 in Clarksdale. Our normal for this time of year is 33, so below that, but obviously still considerable amount above our record low. This is maybe the more important number, or the more impactful number. It's the wind chill factor. 14, what it'll feel like there in Red Bay, 17 in Tupelo and Amory. This is looking at 6 a.m. So for those early school bus riders, this is what it's like. Now, can this cause wind chill? Frostbite? Yes, but you have to be out a more extended period of time there, and I just don't think we're going to be quite out long enough for that to be the case here. So again, 19 there for that wind chill in Kosciuszko, 17 Macon, and 18 in the Aliceville area. Northwest winds continue to keep us, again, dry and clear as we progress into your Thursday. Not a whole lot of disturbances out there to kind of track on the wide shot here, as high pressure is still the story. This one obviously emanating from way up there in Canada. We do have this boundary to kind of act like a cold front and ensure that we stay cooler, and we are looking at our next system that's going to take a combination of some of this colder air and some of that moisture. Just how much of that moisture? More on that here in a moment. But as far as tomorrow's concerned, there's just none, and so we're dry and we're really cold. Wind chills even in the afternoon are probably going to end up being somewhere in the probably low 30s in a lot of spots. It's going to remain breezy. It's going to remain chilly. Actual temperatures somewhere in the low 40s for highs, well below that 53 we typically should be for this time of the year. So keeping it clear as we head into tomorrow night, and a few clouds out there. I point that out to say up to the north, up into Tennessee, not impossible to have a little moisture, but I think we're still just slightly above the freezing point for our area. And they might have some flakes up here. So this is a non-zero chance to see flakes, but it's not going to be something where we have any school cancellations for our area out of this. And you can see even up there, we're keeping that into the green. You have to go all the way up there to Lexington, Kentucky to see something that tries to show up a color different than that. So low temperatures early Friday morning, down into the mid-20s, actually just about at the freezing point there in Greenwood and Belzona, at it for Cleveland, and then Greenville coming in 34. Again, 33 our normal, so a lot closer to that for early Fridays. We're trying to moderate things, and wind chill temperatures caught up a little bit at that point in time, almost 10 degrees warmer than it will feel tomorrow morning. So that's an improvement for sure. So dry Friday as we go throughout the day, that trough kind of approaching us, our winds kind of picking up out of the south, trying to bring a little bit more moisture in. The question is how much more moisture, because a front trailing behind this. This will be the factor when we start talking about that wintry precipitation and all the components. More on that in a second. But most of what's moving through here remains fairly high and a non-issue for us, just a lighter variety showers there on your Friday. So big north-south temperature contrast associated with this. We're going 55 degrees Water Valley, 60 in the Kosciuszko area, but only 50 up here in South Haven, 52 in Senatobia. It's going to be a lot cooler near the Tennessee state line because, again, that front approaching us and those northerly winds certainly dragging a little bit of cooler air before the bigger burst starts to arrive. Okay. Now, here's where these things start to get interesting. If you've been waiting around to see, could we see something wintry? This is where things start to get a little more interesting as we head into Friday night. Let's talk about the players here. So you could start to see showers, and I want to be straight with you here that our strike model is the most aggressive projection that I can show you, okay? If I wanted to dig in and find you an aggressive one, this is what it is. So for snow lovers, this is the one you're looking for there. This has kind of that lead trough there with moisture mainly to the southeast here, and then lots of cold air starting to arrive. What we also see here, again, is this front kind of digs south, but I'm watching back there to Texas to see if we have something, some kind of disturbance trying to build in. I don't really have one. And without one of those really driving it, it's difficult to get meaningful snowfall this far north. But you did see some blue stuff to the west. During the day, Saturday is our timing for that. So 30 in Tupelo and Amory for high temperatures on your low temperatures early Saturday morning. So we're close to the freezing point, but this is an important takeaway. We're very close to the freezing point, so it doesn't take long to go above the freezing point. And at 32 degrees and below, ice stays ice. At 33 and above, it's something else. That's going to be our limiting factor to a certain extent. How much warmer are we? Wind chills are cold, but again, wind chill factor does not figure into what the temperature works on. So we're going to look at Futurecast here a couple different ways, and we're going to take some time to break down the possibilities for you here in depth, which is one of the things we're fortunate to be able to do. What we're seeing here on Futurecast to begin, this is all very, very light snowfall stretching out here into Arkansas, back to the west. And as I said a moment ago, this is just about as progressive and aggressive a projection as I can show you. This does have maybe just a little bit of flake activity trying to get overhead. What is this? I think this is likely snow aloft that's falling into relatively warmer and drier air near the surface and probably mostly melting. But by midday, we still have on this particular projection, and again, this will change, probably shift southward as we go into the evening. That's something Gabe will be talking about tonight at 10 o'clock. But this snow that you see here, and I'll go ahead and bring in the conversation, that chat that you can join us on there online while we're talking about it. I think a lot of this, it's going to be a struggle to get this all the way down to the surface. But we do still show at least a little bit around as we go there through the midday time period and the early afternoon. But you see how there's more green mixing in? They're closer to Scuba, back out toward Crystal Springs and Jackson. That is the effect of these warmer surface temperatures. We're going to layer the warmer surface temperatures on here in a second to kind of go along with that, so we hopefully can explain that a little bit better. But as we go there into, Saturday evening, notice how that does change all over to snowfall. This is probably too much snow. This is probably well above what will actually happen. But it is a sign that the chances are obviously a lot better for accumulating snowfall just to the south of us. Okay? So another way to look at this, I've layered the local temperatures on here for our area. They're kind of small, so I'll zoom in a little bit closer as we kind of walk through this specifically for our area here. But you'll notice that temperatures remain close to, but still a little above freezing as this initial wave comes in. I want you to see what happens to the temperatures here. Watch Houston, watch Amory, watch Eupora as we go from 10 a.m. to noontime. Those temperatures maintain and maybe go up a little bit. So this is that trick I kind of play on kids in school. It's not a true trick, but it's kind of a play on words that I work with them on this, is that I say, hey, did you know it probably snows at your house 10, 12 times a year? And they're like, nuh-uh. This is how the snow happens. It happens where it's snowing up there and it melts into either raindrops or all kind of melts and evaporates as it approaches the surface. I do want to bring in our meteorologist, Gabe Maynard. The reason for that is because I think at this point here we need to talk about the various projections, and we'll look at accumulations in a minute, but we're going to talk about the various projections and how they all kind of correlate related to this. So Gabe, take it away.
Well, you, Matt, got the ambitious one. I got the bad news bears over here. And unfortunately, it's not going to be showing much snowfall. And of course, we're going to be looking at different hours on these projections, starting with 12 o'clock on your Saturday. As you can see right there, 18Z. And we're looking at all of these different model runs up top, from the NAM to the Euro to the GFS. So let's go ahead and assess that. And I'm basically going to drag it right over each one of these, and I'll stop whenever you see snow. And as you can see, not exactly going to be stopping anytime soon, because all of that snowfall primarily remaining out towards the west, but honestly remaining non-existent. We have to jump to about 6 o'clock on this projection. Of course, that jumps it to 0Z. So you can see that change at the top of your screen still with all of those models. And there's where we start to get those hints of blues. And this is 6 p.m. on our Saturday night. And as you can see, Euro, not exactly impressed by any of that wintry precip. GFS, that's where you start to get a little bit of those blues showing up. But as Matt mentioned a moment ago, it's just too warm. And by then, our temperature is cold enough to support any of that winter precip to make it to the surface. I still have my doubts as of this point. And looking at the icon, of course, all the different runs, including the NAM and the RRFS and the UK Met, yeah, not exactly seeing anything on those. Of course, we have our more reliable sources, but nonetheless, it's pretty consistent across the board. Let's go ahead and jump this all the way to around midnight on our Saturday night, because as you know, that's where those chances really start to build heading further south. And there you're getting those deep blues showing up still on our GFS, but those deep blues could result in 1, 2, maybe even 3 inches if this all goes according to the GFS plan. But we don't expect that to happen because look at the Euro's forecast. Non-existent. A few light showers down around the Alabama and Florida coast, but again, not really tracking much in the form of snowfall. The GFS is just one of the more ambitious models, similar to the strike model that Matt was looking at a moment ago. Icon, NAM, yeah, just none of these really lining up with that forecast. So heading into the next 24 to 48 hours, and I talked about it last week, this is when we'll get a lot of our questions answered because short-range model runs are going to come out, and that's a little bit more of a higher resolution, and that's where we can assess this in a little bit more detail with both timing, impacts, and potential. But temperature-wise, continues to be an extreme limiting factor on all of these. I'm curious, and I'll go ahead and take it. Let's jump back to 6 p.m. on our Saturday, and I'm going to pull up temperatures here real quick because one of the big things I want to show you is how this has trended from model run to model run. So a few of those flurries that are trying to form down south, I mean, even there, we're talking mid to upper 30s, and let me get on the GFS model because that was the more aggressive one. 35 degrees in Tupelo, 37 down there towards Starkville, 43 Meridian, 44 Jackson, 47 all the way down south in Hattiesburg. So, guys, it's not looking good. And I saw a few folks that were talking in the chat saying, if it's too warm, then that means sleet or freezing rain, right? Not exactly. So these are the temperatures that are going to be happening at the surface. The surface matters because that's really the determining factor of all of it whenever it fully reaches the ground. That's what we experience. So that temperature at the ground matters. In order for snow to stay snow, we need it to be 32 degrees from top all the way to the surface. In order for it to be any sleet, that's where it freezes before reaching the ground. So you have a little bit more of, as you go up into the atmosphere, you have a little bit stronger of a layer to allow that sleet to form. Not looking like that's the case here. And even for freezing rain is freezing temperatures at the surface. And as you can see, unless you're up there towards Jackson, Tennessee, that's really where we expect those colder temperatures to be, at least cold enough to support any freezing precip. And everywhere in Mississippi, especially if you look at all of these different model runs, still shaping up to be an above freezing forecast. In order to get those sub-freezing temperatures, we have to jump back to around midnight. And even then, we're talking about areas north. And up north, what's the issue? It's dry. So these factors just not lining up. You never have that crisscross that you need in order for snow to happen. So Matt, yes, snow is showing up on models. Does that mean it's going to happen? I think a few flurries possible, but like you mentioned, yes, snow does happen way high up in the sky. But once it reaches that above freezing threshold, it's all rain from there.
And listen, things could change.
Things could change.
Let's
You're
be
exactly
clear
right
about that. But this is not typically our setup. We typically look in a winter weather setup. I'd be looking on the wide shot here back out towards, say, Texas. And we'd be looking for a low pressure center back here that would lift our direction. We just don't really have that, even on the wide shot here. And before I zoomed it out, we bring it back in here, you'd see those temperatures by, say, 3 p.m. into the 40s. Not just a little above freezing, but by that point, basically 10 degrees above the freezing point. That's just not going to cut it as far as snowfall is concerned for most of our area. So will there be flakes? Yes. Is it possible that maybe you get one band that's heavy enough to produce something that gets a little bit of a coating? I'd say possible, but likely, no, I would not say that. And that's where our Snowfinder comes in that we talked about during our 5 o'clock. We'll have an updated look at that coming up at 10 o'clock here on the Mississippi Live Weather. So let's talk about potential accumulations on this. And we're going to look at our strike model. Like I mentioned a moment ago, this is the most aggressive projection. Nothing the next couple of days. But as we head into Saturday, that's when our chances get a little bit better there. You notice the latest version here does not have much. And this is the newest version coming in the last couple minutes here. And it has, again, primarily for the stripe here back from Birmingham back toward Hattiesburg, back toward the east. And for locations out that way, it's not just snow, it's accumulating snowfall for some of those spots. Looking into your Sunday and beyond, obviously the mountains up there, most likely to see something. But give me a moment as I kind of hack into the model here for a second, because I went ahead and tweaked it down because I disagreed with the some of what it had. So I tweaked it down just a little bit. Let me remove my regional edit on this to double check on its accumulation amounts for our area in particular. And this I do largely agree with. I'm going to bring Gabe in here for a second. We're going to double box this as we talk. That does mean the chat's going to go away here for just a moment. This I do think is more reasonable based on the temperature profile we're talking about. Maybe just a little bit too warm this far north. But how often is it that you get snowfall, accumulating snowfall down at the coast? I mean, come on. Isn't it funny? You could go have a beach trip booked for January, see snowfall in the Florida Panhandle, our Panhandle weather friends down there tracking that potential, and then not have anything up here. But that's just the way sometimes it works. The positioning will shift on this. This is going to shift back and forth a lot over the next couple of days.
Big time. And I think that I agree with you on the projections. I think they line up pretty well. Someone in the chat, I believe it was at 5 o'clock, said, so you're telling me Hattiesburg is projected to get more snow than North Mississippi? Make it make sense. And they're exactly right. That's
Absolutely.
just the abnormal part of a Mississippi forecast.
They have moisture. So
yes.
It's about ingredients, right? We have the cold. We're too far removed from the moisture. And they have a shorter trip to the Gulf, right? And that means they have a shorter trip to moisture.
And timing matters as well.
This is one of our... Okay. Yes. Go ahead.
So, just saying later on in the night, having that moisture in the forecast, that also matters because we're talking midnight, colder temperatures in place, whereas up north, when we're getting those light showers, it's still going to be above freezing, maybe even the low 40s. So just not lining up as well for us.
You nailed it. Time of day makes a huge difference. Those overnight chances, how many times have you woken up to snow as opposed to had it fall during the day and be significant? It can happen, but typically when we have decent snows, a lot of times we wake up to it in the morning because the sun is not working against producing some of that snowfall there. I appreciate that. Our meteorologist Gabe Maynard back in the studios with that analysis. So let's look at our other main projection that we can look at this time period out, and that is going to be the GFS, American model. And Gabe and I were talking about this. I give this model some you-know-what from time to time because I don't always agree with it, and I don't agree with what it has here. But it did do a little better on snow forecasting last winter. So credit where credit is due. I'm a European apologist. I love my European model. Weather model, but as we look at this American one here, I mean, yes, it has probably too much snowfall up here in the northern part of the state. I'll go ahead and bring that chat back up because people have opinions related to this here. I think, again, probably too much up here and probably too much down south as well. But the takeaway being it does pretty well line up with the heavier snowfall amount. So you might have snowfall up here, some flakes, and not have snow sticking. That makes sense? So, yeah, this obviously I think it probably overdoes some of the snowfall to the south and east, but definitely looking out there into Alabama and Georgia and then up there toward North Carolina. It's got a bit of a band there, snowfall. So again, on our forecast next couple days here from 41, as you can see on Thursday, obviously those really, really cold wind chills are the story. We're 20s there as we look toward Friday, early Saturday morning, we're 30. And that's the thing, the only morning in the whole forecast here where we're close to the freezing point is the morning where we have chances for snowfall and we go above it. That's not a coincidence. That means we have a little bit more moisture there, and that forces the temperature up slightly. So 43, as far as meaningful accumulations are concerned, I'm not at all convinced on that. You'd have to be talking south of US 82, best case scenario, and honestly more central and south Mississippi as far as that is concerned. Only mid-30s for Sunday, so really cold behind it. We've got the cold. We just don't have the moisture based on what we're looking at now, but that is something that could change. And I mentioned a moment ago here, we have a product called Snowfinder. It's something you can only see here on Mississippi Live Weather. We're going to check the latest update of that and get a wrap up from our meteorologist Gabe Maynard as we pontificate on what could happen as Mississippi Live Weather continues here from the Room to Room Weather Center right after this.
The bravest thing that my dad has done has been going back to school.
It wasn't when he first enlisted, it was when he found his first support group.
The bravest thing she did is when she asked for help. I don't remember how it started.
Go to that.
Our back and forth. It always came back.
Dad!
You probably don't remember what you told me,
That was perfect.
but I heard every word.
So if you missed our 5 o'clock broadcast, we're introducing you to Snowfinder. This is a product you'll see only here on Mississippi Live Weather. What it does is it layers the likelihood of snowfall with the amount of snowfall possible. Both these projections coming from what we call the NBM model. Now what the NBM is, it's the national blend of models. Essentially, it's kind of an aggregate of everything, kind of combined and spitting out the overall average. So when we do see higher percentages on here, we're going to have a higher confidence level of seeing whatever it is. And so this is one of the things that powers Stormfinder, as well as this Snowfinder product that we're looking at here as well. And when we look at the colors, we're looking again at the very colorful display that we have up there toward the mountains back out into the Smokies. And so high likelihood again in the mountains that at 7:30 this evening there's going to be some snowfall there. Again, higher altitude, colder, all the factors align a lot better for that. So we look for the brighter colors on this for a higher likelihood of something occurring. We'll bring that chat back in here as we're kind of talking here at the same time related to this. So you'll note it's a non-zero chance for a little bit of wintry stuff for locations up into Tennessee as far as tonight is concerned in the overnight hours, as we talked about. But even though it says non-zero, where we have those darker colors there, we're talking maybe 2%, 3% chance. Not high likelihood, right? But a much, much higher likelihood up there in the mountains. But even in the mountains, right, where they have some of the ingredients, and we do show some snowfall, you can see out there in the Smokies, less locations with the likelihood of seeing that snowfall even 1:32, 3 o'clock in the morning for tonight. So that gives you kind of an idea how it works. When the threat increases, the possibility it ramps up. When it decreases, it ramps down. Well, I left it here on the Carolinas and out there toward East Tennessee because we pretty much have no threat until possibly Saturday. Of course, our friends over there, East Tennessee Weather, Mike Witcher, he'll be tracking it if you, for whatever reason, have some plans to take you out there to the Smokies and closer to the Knoxville area. You can look up East Tennessee Weather. They're kind of a partner group of us here on Mississippi Live Weather. So here is our Snowfinder with those chances increasing just a little bit. Okay, and so when we see these percentages increase, that means now we're at a 5 to possibly 10% chance to see some snowfall. The timing on that being, say, 3 p.m. here on Saturday. Increasing a bit more as we head toward 4 to 5 to 6, which might be our greatest chance at that point in time. So, let's be clear. That means the best case scenario is that we have maybe a 30% chance, right, or 20, 25% chance there of seeing snowfall for locations from Choctaw County, Oktibbeha County, back there closer to Attala County. That is not a very high likelihood of it occurring, right? That's a very, very limited likelihood of occurrence. So the chances increase a bit more for other locations south. Notice now we have widespread locations where it's possible out here Jackson toward Meridian by around 9 p.m. And I did see just a second ago, Markella's there saying, snow Choctaw County. Understand that when we show, say, 20% chance of snow occurring on Snowfinder, that also means the inverse. It's an 80% chance that snow will not occur. So if you're thinking about shooting baskets, it's like you're hitting 1 in 5. So out of this exact same event, if it happened 5 times, in theory, only 1 out of those 5 times would it produce snowfall for locations there, Choctaw County. So will there be flakes? Possibility. Certainly the chance of that increases a lot more down to the south and east. And the other part of this graphic that doesn't really show up until this chances move on out of here. And you can see all the chances are out of here by early morning Sunday, about the time that we finally get cold enough that we'd support snow up here in North Mississippi. This is largely sliding away from us there. But when it does, what that reveals behind it is this light blue that you see there. Oh man, I thought I had 1 more hour on that. I'm gonna put that back in play mode. We're gonna hop ahead to that. But this is where it's possible that a dusting could occur based on kind of what Snowfinder is seeing. And as you'll note here, it's almost exclusively south of our area. You mentioned Choctaw County a moment ago there, Marcellus. Not impossible to get just a little bit there, but I again think the odds are very low. As you saw, 20% chance to get that, but the high likelihood that it's less than that. I do see James asking, didn't the coast get a snow event last year? Thought it was rare. It is. It is really rare to get snow down there. And they did get it last year. They got, a fairly historic amount of snowfall. It remains to be seen whether or not that will be the case again. Certainly our friends down at Panhandle Weather are going to be monitoring that. If for whatever reason you have weekend plans to take you down there, they'll be on top of that one for sure. But the big takeaway is majority of our area probably not seeing a lot of meaningful snowfall out of this. So with that in mind, again, I think we'll wrap things up here on Mississippi Live Weather. Our next live broadcast is going to be coming up here at 10 p.m. Our meteorologist Gabe Maynor will be monitoring things here in the Room to Room Weather Center. Any changes related to this forecast he'll have for you starting at 10 p.m. And, we'll get to things, I think, pretty quickly right off the top of that show. Also want to remind you that our meteorologist Maggie McCauley, you can check her out every weekday at 6:30, 7:30 a.m. She'll be tracking, updates to the positioning on the snow. And I think that's kind of the critical thing. Where is it positioning as it wobbles north and south? She'll have the very latest to look at our strike model and all of our different projections here and analysis starting tomorrow morning at 6:30 a.m. But she's live 6:30, 7:30 a.m. We're live here again 5, 6, and 10 in the evenings, Monday through Friday. We'll see you tonight at 10.
March 24th, 2023 was a normal Friday. We knew the weather was not good, but we needed to take shelter, and we didn't have shelter. My husband and almost 2-year-old daughter, Ethan and Riley, they did lose their lives in the storm. We're still recovering from it. We'll always be recovering from it. Matt Lawpon cares about the community. He's not just there to collect a paycheck. I feel like Matt Lawpon has proven himself trustworthy.